Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel Echo of Life. Let's start. There was once a boy named Eli. He didn't enter the world damaged. He didn't start out angry, confused, or fractured. In the beginning, he was just a child, curious, bright, and full of imagination. He asked endless questions, dreamed boldly, and saw life in brilliant colors. But the home he grew up in didn't nourish any of that. It swallowed it. Eli's father would return home with thunder in his voice, exploding at anything and everything. His mother didn't yell. She disappeared into silence, as if she were made of fog. Eli grew up studying the house like a battlefield. He memorized the creaks in the floor, the doors that squealed, the look in his father's eyes before the storm hit. Dinner wasn't a meal, it was a negotiation with danger. Yet the chaos wasn't the thing that shattered him the most. It was the pretending, the fake smiles in public, the lies told to neighbors, the denial of what was happening right in front of him. No one ever admitted something was wrong. That silence became the wound that shaped his entire life. Because trauma doesn't stay in the past. It settles into the nervous system. It silently rewires the way a child feels, reacts, trusts, and understands themselves. Eli learned early that he wasn't safe, that his needs were too heavy, that his feelings were inconvenient. And so he grew up wearing a mask. To the world, Eli was likable, funny, quick to understand people, able to adapt to any situation. He became whoever others needed him to be. But inside, he felt like an abandoned house, walls still standing but every room burned out. Unresolved trauma does this. It splits a person. Part of them survives. The rest goes into hiding. As Eli grew older, it didn't explode all at once. It began quietly. Nights of staring at the ceiling. An uneasy sense that something terrible was about to happen, even when everything looked fine. Then came the anger he couldn't explain, the distrust, the guilt, the emotional spirals he couldn't escape. He wanted connection but feared it at the same time. He'd push people away, then cling to them in desperation. Love became a war, one where he played both victim and attacker. He tried therapy once. He told the therapist he felt numb, that his dreams were chaotic, that sometimes he would stare at his reflection and feel like a stranger was staring back. They labeled it anxiety, depression, but the labels couldn't touch the root.
It's the
because
only
trauma,
way.
when left buried, doesn't die. It waits, collects interest. Eventually, Eli's grip on reality began to slip. He started having conversations with himself, arguments, debates, emotional outbursts. He stopped responding to his reflection. He carried notebooks filled with disconnected thoughts, symbols, sketches, and words he couldn't explain. Friends said he'd changed, but the truth was the mask he wore had finally cracked. He was no worse than before, just too exhausted to pretend anymore. This is the part people misunderstand about going crazy. It's not sudden. It's cumulative. It's the psyche collapsing under the weight of years spent hiding the truth. When the mind can't process pain, it tries to create patterns, meaning, logic, even where there is none. A radio advertisement suddenly feels like a message. A passing glance from a stranger becomes a warning. Streetlights flickering feel like signals. His mind was trying to make sense of the unspeakable, because behind every hallucination, every delusion, every outburst, there is a child still begging to be heard. By the time the world noticed Eli's suffering, it was already too late. Society doesn't understand psychological collapse. It fears it, judges it, and turns it into a spectacle. Eli became another "what happened?" Another misunderstood story, another statistic. He didn't lose his mind because he was weak. He lost it because he carried too much for too long. Some call it madness. Some call it a breakdown. But Jung described something else. The painful process of confronting the parts of ourselves we were forced to abandon. To Eli, though, it didn't feel transformative. It felt like drowning, being dragged into darkness by memories that didn't speak in sentences, but in nightmares, sensations, and screams he couldn't articulate. Losing your mind is rarely dramatic. It starts as a tiny crack, a quiet fracture in the mirror, and slowly, the entire reflection shatters. Eli wasn't just dealing with old memories. He was carrying years of fear, shame, neglect, and unspoken grief. All the moments when he stayed quiet as a child now roared inside him. Psychology calls it the false self, the version of you created to survive your environment. But the real self doesn't disappear. It waits. And when the false self finally collapses, what emerges is the shadow. The unexpressed rage, hurt, and longing you never allowed yourself to feel. Eli's breaking point wasn't insanity. It was honesty. For the first time in years, he stopped running from the truth. He wrote obsessively, not to make sense, but to release. Pages filled with drawings, fragmented thoughts, and repeated phrases. One sentence kept returning over and over. "I didn't deserve this." That sentence became the beginning of his healing. Not because it fixed him, but because it gave him permission to feel what he had suppressed for decades. He returned to therapy, but this time he didn't hide. He allowed himself to cry, to rage, to break open. He mourned the child who never felt safe. He grieved the adult who pretended for too long. And slowly, painfully, he realized something. Madness was never his enemy. It was a message. It was the younger version of him demanding to be acknowledged. He wasn't cured, but he was no longer lost. Healing is not becoming a new person. It is remembering who you were before life cracked you open. The first step is silence. Not the silence of numbness, but the silence where you finally listen to yourself. Write, scream, walk, cry. Do whatever brings your truth to the surface. Read books that reveal what the mind hides. Not just symptoms, but the hidden architecture of the soul. Books like The Body Keeps the Score, The Drama of the Gifted Child, and Man and His Symbols. These books are not solutions. They are companions that hold a mirror to the unconscious. And most importantly, don't seek healing so you can appear perfect. Seek healing so you can finally feel real. So you can look into your reflection and recognize the person looking back. The world doesn't need more masks. It needs more people who have walked through their darkness and returned with truth. Thank you for watching my videos. Please subscribe my channel for more updates.